the ongoing series about the life of the people touched by the love of the Pacific. Here are their stories. This is Highway 54.
All right.
Yeah.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Jolina. Am I saying it right? Okazaki?
Yeah. Okazaki, yes.
Okazaki. Wow, it's been years. Not
It's
a
been
decade.
quite a long time.
I know.
And you still look the same.
Oh, thank you,
have
thank
the
you.
Asian genes.
And you do. I know, right? What was that? The old guy said, "Wow, you look so young. What do you use? Shampoo."
Just shampoo. I use shampoo for everything, for my face, for my hair.
Exactly. I think just Asians don't crack. No, I don't smoke. I do drink occasionally. That's why I have my belly. But we Asians don't use. We age gracefully. I think for guys. I mean, girls do. Girls too. I mean, you look the same pretty much. I mean, it hasn't been that long. It's been what? We met. I've been in Japan since 2002. And I left in 2018. So you were there 2005, I believe.
Yeah, 2005 and then to 2009. So it's definitely been way over 10 years since we saw each other.
Oh yeah, it's been 10 years. A decade, but a decade to us is like seemed like yesterday.
I know. Yeah.
Well, our mind is that way, but our body doesn't feel that way.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, it's really great to see you. Thank you for coming out.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is fun.
I know we've been phone tagging or Instagram tagging back and forth the past couple weeks. But I just wanted to. So we met in Japan, and I know you were a teenager at that time, 2009. Your mom, because we belong to this big organization, and I want to tell you right now, it's pretty much gone. The Philharmonie Association, and
it's gone.
Well, it's not like the way we had it. We had it fun. It was like 30, 40 families of just culture and fun and food and dances and parties. It's not like that anymore. It slowly kind of declined. It's just the world changing and not enough people. Because I don't know if you heard about Yokota. It's just houses are empty. People are leaving, but they're not coming in anymore like we had. Yeah. Okay, and we're back. Okay. That was weird. That was like a blackout. That was weird.
I know. Brownout. They call it a brownout.
So brownout. I always thought, why do you say brownout? Oh, it's a brownout. No, it's a blackout. No, it's a brownout. Well, yeah, technically it is a brownout. So what are we talking about?
I never understood that one.
So yeah, we met 2000. Yeah, talk about the Philham. Yeah, it's just it just along with all the private works, it's just kind of dwindled down to not enough families, not enough interests. And you know what else killed it?
Really? Why do you say that?
People are getting more of their social interactions through. You know what I'm saying? Like back in the day, during our time, our phones were just coming out as smartphones.
Yeah.
To interact with people, you have to go out to do a little chismis, they call it chismis, to get the gossip or the news or anything. Yeah, to catch up with people, you actually have to go to the community center or to the club or whatever to meet. Now it's like I can get my interaction fill from. So they feel like they don't have any motivation to go out and meet people. You know what I'm saying? So that's a whole combination of things that happened during the past 10 years that you left. That just kind of dwindled down.
Gosh, that makes me so sad.
It is so sad. Especially me. I was there for 16 years, and I knew the heyday of like our group. Philham was one of the strongest private orgs that we ever had, and we had fun, and our Christmas parties were legendary.
Yeah, everyone's your auntie, everyone's your uncle. I mean, everyone's your cousin.
Yeah, exactly. Gosh, I mean, it's like, well, technically not really, but we do. They're close friends, so we say auntie, we say uncles, and that's my niece or that's my nephew. Like you're like my niece because your mom, me and your mom are friends. But anyways, so basically going back to you is, I only knew you and your mom. Really, I don't know if I met your dad either.
Yeah, he's a Japanese side that was just kind of the workaholic during the Yokota days.
Right? Yeah.
And
I think I met him
yeah.
once or twice, but not really anyways. So
Hmm.
when I knew you,
Yeah.
little teen, not little teen, you were still little, right?
I
Little
hope so.
teenager. But I remember that you're very artistic. You were kind of a dancer at one time with groups.
Hmm.
Um, and I wasn't a teen center at that time. I was a teen center director in 2000, ooh, uh, 12 or 13 at that. And I
Hmm.
remember you did some modeling, ramp modeling. You remember that? You did some ramp modeling for teen center. I don't know if you did it
Yeah.
professionally for Japan, but I remember that you did that.
No. Yeah. Just for the base.
Oh yeah, for the base.
Just the catwalk. Yeah.
So moving forward, that's the great thing about social networking and media is that for us as being military brats, we get to kind of keep in touch with our friends, but not really committing to like, hey, what's going on? Hey, how are you? And having a long conversations. But
Hmm.
like,
Hmm.
oh, I can see you had a baby. We had a friend who just had a baby, and um, you know, being a captain now and a major and a doctor and a nurse and all that, and without really kind of talking to them. And so I've kind of like just
Hmm.
throughout the years seen your progression. So from Japan, you went to Texas, right?
Hmm. Yes.
San Antonio.
Yes. Yes.
So the big
Yeah.
question is,
That was a culture shock, I would say.
was it San Antonio from Japan
Yeah.
to San Antonio?
Hmm. It was
So
rough.
you went from Japan to Texas, and then the reason why you're really here, of course, because you're my friend, but also because you are a news personality or newscaster? What do you want to be called?
um. Well, I started off. I would just say journalist, but news anchor
News
is
anchor.
probably the news anchor, news reporter at times. So
So walk
yeah.
us through a journey. Walk us
Hmm.
through a journey because looking through your Facebook stuff and information and just following you, how is that? It's kind of not crazy, but it's interesting to see your progression to being a newscaster now in West Texas now, right? How did you start?
Hmm.
What got you interested?
Yeah, it was definitely a very it was kind of this hole that I fell into. I didn't even realize that I wanted to get into journalism because like you said, I was getting into art. Uh,
Mhm.
that was my thing, but it got to a point where as the older I got, you kind of realize where the career in this, how am I going to
Yeah,
pay the bills painting all day? And I
yeah, yeah,
think eventually, even in high school in Japan, it was like you kind of do the film thing, the TV news thing for the high school as every other kid does. And then even at that time, I didn't think that it was something I wanted to do. But then in college, um, it got to a point where I kind of fell in love with the idea of storytelling, and I was getting kind of sick of the art thing. I didn't like being graded based on the composition and the context of this, and I wanted to be graded based on how well I could tell a story. And I think that's where my passion for storytelling kind of developed. And then I knew before I graduated that I was not going to graduate until I got into a newsroom, like an actual newsroom, because I kept hearing about students who would cry because they hated the newsroom. They hated being surrounded by sad stories and stories that were so breaking, like stories that were very hard, not of course this is the world we live in. We're not going to tell fluffy stories and the dog who was rescued from a fire or whatever. A lot of it
yeah.
is just it's just the reality of life. And so I fell in love with that, and I probably interned maybe about like a year, and I realized it was what I wanted to do. Then I moved to West Texas,
Mhm.
kind of all the way here, working
Yeah,
in the desert in oil field town, and
I c- I can hear the twang.
yeah, but no, it was great. And so it's cool living in Midland, Texas, because as much as you kind of think, well, that's kind of in the middle of nowhere, you're not really around a lot of things. There's actually
Yeah,
a lot of history here. This is where George W. Bush lived. I cover a lot of things. I don't only cover a lot of oil and gas. I mean, this is predominantly an area where there's a lot of oil activity, but
Yeah.
I covered President Trump's visit not too long ago, and I do
Oh, yeah,
cover
yeah, yeah.
a lot of things. So it's very exciting, and it's been a really crazy journey. So here
I
I
know.
am.
I know. Interesting. I mean, we are so proud, not just myself, and I'm sure
Thank you.
we have a big Filipino Yokota Japan family, and I'm sure everybody's looking at you, and you're at the top of our list of like, oh man, I know you're still
Aw.
you're at the almost at the peak. I'm sure there's bigger things for you in the horizons.
Yeah, I
But
hope so. Hmm.
do you think the way you grew up as a military brat, did some of these abilities that you attained from that time, from being an artist to a dancer to being very creative, that kind of help you in your field, what you do now?
Yeah, I think so too. Journalism isn't just about being able to tell a story. There is some creativity that needs to be done with it, and I think when you kind of have that kind of mind, and it becomes so natural to you, and that's what wins the Emmys. No, I'm just kidding.
Exactly.
I haven't won one yet. I haven't even applied for one. But like, I mean, it's definitely helped. And I think the idea of being an Air Force brat and being, traveling all over the world and being exposed to different people and learning different cultures, I think that's helped, because that's the one thing too, is a lot of the time when I was reporting, you go and meet these random strangers that you don't even know. And I think having the ability to learn how to communicate and not just coming up and being a robot, being, hey,
Yeah.
why don't you tell me what's the scoop this morning? You have to be a human. That's the whole point of journalism. You're still human. You're not a robot. You're talking to people and you're getting to know people, and that's what tells the story. So yeah, being an Air Force brat has definitely been very beneficial to my career.
Mhm.
So, and I'm sure you could say the same way, doing these podcasts.
Yeah, I mean, like I told you before we started, I was in radio before I joined the Air Force. And the only reason why I joined the Air Force is just to get life experience. So I have something I can
Yeah.
talk about behind the mic. And I was just kind of bored. And so 22 years later, I find myself into COVID 2020. We could have another
Hmm.
podcast about 2020. So many stories. But you know what? I thought, um, let me try this. Everybody else is doing it. I'm sure I'm the 1 millionth person to try to do a podcast. Obviously, people who talk for a living, it's easier for them. You remember me? I was a DJ. I don't know if I DJ'd some of your school
Yeah, you
meetings,
did.
right? I was known as
You DJ'd
DJ
my
Kid Mango.
Sweet 16. Yeah, I remember that.
Oh yeah, I did do that.
You forgot about that. That's
Like
so funny.
what?
Yeah,
I've done so
that was a
many.
blast.
Prom, homecoming, Sweet 16. Oh yeah, I did do that.
Mm-hmm.
I just remembered
Mm-hmm.
now. That's crazy. But but the thing is with me, I was MC also for the bass. I talked in I spoke in spurts, just announcing. Like I was an
Mm-hmm.
announcer versus someone who's talking to someone live or on camera. So that's a skill
Mm-hmm.
I have to really master and learn. So I know with you, you're gonna come an inspiration. So every so often I'll say, okay, how do you banter? How are you witty? How do you talk? How do you introduce? How do you get a good morning? And I
Mm-hmm.
know there's from watching you and a lot of people, there's no big secret sauce. It's just a matter of being you, right? And organic. And so
Mm-hmm.
um so
Mm-hmm.
walk us to like your typical day of a newscaster. How's your day begins and ends?
Okay. Do you want to hear from a reporter standpoint, like out in the field, or do you want to hear from like a studio anchor standpoint?
Let's do the newscaster. Yeah, on studio.
Okay. So my newscast goes live from 5 to 7 in the morning. So
Mm.
this is for people who are, people work in the oil field, people who are getting ready for work. So I'm not in the actual station until I think I'm there at maybe 12:30 in the morning. So it's a very abnormal schedule that not a lot of
12:30 in the
people.
morning.
Yes. So yeah, so typically I do sleep from like 3 p.m. and then I wake up around 12. So it's insane. It takes a while to get used to. But anyway, so I go in the station around that time, and then I help produce. So I don't just go in and I read. I think that's like the misconception people think about news anchors. They just come in and read. Yeah, so I go in and I write. A lot of the news that we get comes from either NBC, CNN, sometimes, or just some of the stations that we are partners with. So, you know, I find the stories that I think is important. One of the big stories of 2020, George Floyd. So following that trial, even though, yeah, that's not local, that's still a big story. So then, you know, I do that. But local news is always going to, you know, be the main thing as well. But so I get the newscast together. I also do stuff for the radio station too. So I just send them, you know, the top stories that are happening, and then getting ready.
So as a newscaster, you're actually you're writing the news.
Yeah.
You're providing the news. You don't just like walk in and say, here's a teleprompter and like, okay, read whatever is on the teleprompter.
Right. Yeah. I think that's what a lot of people think, is that they think that like we just come in and we read. But no, you have to know what you're reporting, because if it ever gets to a point where that teleprompter crashes, you have to ad lib at that point. You know, you can't just be like, oh, sorry, my script's not here. No, if the prompter crashes, you have to know what you're reading. You have to pick yourself up.
Interesting.
And that is a challenge. It's being a news anchor. You have to. I'm not trying to sound like a queen, but you have to work up to that. You know, you can't just come out of college, skip the whole reporting thing, and then just jump to being a news anchor. You have to learn the concept of storytelling. You have to learn what you're reporting. I think one of the big problems that I see with a lot of people who get into the business is a lot of girls, I say girls because a lot of them are very excited to be on TV. They think it's glam. They think they have a makeup artist, hairstylist that shows up. That's not the case. You have to get ready yourself. You have to be able to go live by yourself. You're not going to have a photographer with you. And you have to understand local government. You have to understand how taxes work, the penal code. It's a lot of stuff. It's not just being glamorous on TV. And I think I wish people who wanted to get into journalism, I wish they knew that, because that's the one thing they will not tell you in journalism school. It's not Hollywood. It's not the entertainment business. It's providing news and like factual information, and it's stuff that you have to know. So anyway, so everything from writing to doing stuff with the radio station, that happens before 4:30, and then we prepare for the 5 o'clock, and then we just do the news for 2 hours straight.
Wow,
it's been great.
That's interesting. That's something new. I mean, I didn't know. Maybe you know why? Because I'm going to be one of those guys, or the audience. Like we base a lot of our information from Anchorman.
Okay, yeah.
Right? They're like, hey, just read the news. He just pops in and just reads whatever. He's like, hey, no, whatever you put on the teleprompter, he's going to read, not knowing that for a lot of them, your newscasters or reporters, they do all the work and write it.
It's a lot of writing, yeah.
Oh my goodness, that's interesting. Well, I know people listening right now. I know we still have some nieces and nephews and cousins and friends. Like, no, man, it's not all glamour. That you just turn on the camera and there's someone doing your makeup and you just read a teleprompter. I mean, do you read a teleprompter or?
Yeah, so I do have a teleprompter, and we have a person who's the prompter person. We call the prompter person. They're spinning the dial. So so
is it hard?
We have that person there.
Oh, you have that person.
I mean, it's not hard, but it's how you read it, because you know, it's easier said than done. I think what's that movie with Bruce Almighty? When he goes in, he's like, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Well, you know, sometimes when you're kind of new to reading the teleprompter, you kind of get mad if someone's going too fast or too slow. But like I said, it all goes down to you have to know what you're reading, because if that person messes up, if sometimes like even the dial, if you flick it a little bit, you can like lose the whole thing. So there's a lot of pressure on the person who's doing the dial. Then there's a lot of pressure on the person who's anchoring. So
Wait,
You
wait.
have to know
So,
what you're saying
so
in the
someone
event.
like so someone at the teleprompter moving it manually, or that's computer?
Yeah. No, they're moving this dial slowly, and they have to follow the speed that you're talking. If you're a
Wow.
person who, yeah, if you're a person who talks really fast, like, "Hey, good morning, we're gonna get to the top stories," is what it's like. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, pace
Interesting.
is the important thing. But
So
yeah,
it basically when you're doing a teleprompter after a few weeks or a month, you have that relationship with the teleprompter, man or woman, right? And then they know
hmm
how you speak, so they're in sync with you as you're talking, right?
yeah, yeah. I guess you could say there is a type of relationship because there are times when some of the news anchors we get so mad. We're like, "Why do you go so fast? Why do you go so slow? Follow the line." And they're like, "Well, I
Exactly.
just don't know how to do it. You talk too fast, or like you don't talk like how Ron Burgundy talks. He talks so slow and you talk so fast." So it does require some type of like connection that you have to get. So
That's so
yeah,
interesting.
it's the more you know, the more you know.
Right? Wow, that's so good. And, that's a great insight of, the newscasting industry. I didn't know. I'm sure a lot of people gonna be watching this like, "Oh, I didn't know that." Like, "Oh, man." But so 12:30. So you go well, you don't wake up at 12:30. You go to work at 12:30 in the
Yeah,
morning. Oh my
yeah,
goodness. And you do the
I
news,
know.
you're researching, and then you do your
hmm
2 hours. So after your 2 hours of on live news, what do you do after that?
So after that, then the next 2 hours, we still have to go live again because after we go live for local news, it's the Today Show. That's through NBC. So, they
Yeah.
do their whole Today Show. And then there's a certain point every 30 minutes, they say, "We now return you to your local newscast." And then we go live for 2 minutes and we just say anything that's breaking, anything that's happening, and then
Yeah.
the forecast. And then it's commercial break. And so we do that for the next 2 hours. And then I do a morning meeting with the people who come in for the regular shift and
Yeah.
do that for maybe like an hour. And then I go home. So I'm not out of my job until like maybe 10 in the morning. But then it sounds like a nightmare because that's usually the time when everyone's asleep and stuff. But it took me 2 years to get used to that schedule. But it's nice because then you have the rest of the day to do whatever you want. So
Run errands, pay bills, and all that.
yeah, be an adult. Yeah.
Adult. Yeah, that's cool. Well, that's interesting. So, basically, it's almost a 12-hour shift almost, if you think about it, right?
Mhm.
12:30 to
Yeah,
12
I don't
o'clock.
don't get paid
Wow.
hourly because I'm a salary
Yeah,
person,
yeah,
so
yeah,
it's not.
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't mind it though because I'm not really counting the hours and thinking, well, I did work these 5 hours, I deserve to get this money because I think that when you get into a profession that you have this strong passion for, I don't think that like, I mean, most people will probably disagree with me, but for me, at the end of the day, the experience matters to me, and it doesn't really matter about the money. I think I'm getting paid a decent amount for what I do for a living, so I don't look at the clock. And I think that's another mistake a lot of reporters do is they keep looking at the clock because when you're starting out in a small market like West Texas, you're not going to get paid a lot. That's the other thing they don't tell you in broadcast school. You will have
Yeah,
to live on ramen noodles and probably drinking tap water for a little bit because it's not a good salary. But at the end of the day, the passion is like
yeah,
what drives me to keep
yeah.
going. So
Wow, that's interesting. I mean, I want to ask you how much you get paid, but, I can only imagine. You can tell me
it's it's
offline.
it's definitely not a six-figure salary, but I will say when most news reporters start out, it's 25,000 starting.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's definitely a struggle,
Really?
but yeah. But like when you get to some of the bigger markets like
Of course.
California and New York, they're getting
Yeah,
paid
yeah,
like 90,000 or
yeah, yeah.
sometimes six figures. So,
Well,
I
they
mean, but it
at
takes a lot of experience.
yeah, at that time, you built your brand, and now at that time, your people asking for you. Say, "Hey, Jolina, we have opening in San Diego."
Yeah.
They're asking you now, and now at that point, you're like, "Well, this is how much it's gonna cost for you to move me, where I'm gonna live." California is expensive, so like, well, I need to afford
hmm
I want to afford a nice house, not an apartment or a condo. So, um, That's cool. I mean, I could kind of figure out, how much you guys weren't getting paid as much when you first start out, especially in West Texas. You're in a small town, and you
Hmm.
know, but that's interesting. So, I mean, what you talk about when you're. Oh, sorry, I'm gonna try to formulate. We can
Yeah.
see when you are actually doing your job that you can tell that, oh man, I really enjoy what I do.
Hmm.
Um, not because I know your personality, but I think you just said it, like, you're not gonna do this, just for the money. You're gonna do this because, I'm very passionate about, what I do, being
Hmm.
creative, there's, news, personality. I mean, what do you like most about your work?
That's a good question. I think I'm so okay. When I first started reporting as a reporter, it did take a lot of it is a lot of pressure because you're fresh out of college. A lot of the reporters that come out of college, they don't know the difference between city and county. They don't know the difference between jail and prison. And there's a lot of pressure because it's like you're reporting something that's very it has to be right because you don't want to be that news station that says, oh, sorry, we have to retract what we say, which a lot of
Yeah,
them don't do. But I
yeah,
think the one thing that kept driving me to that made me really love my job a lot is meeting people. I think like being able to socialize and meet a lot of friends along the way. You become
yeah.
friends with the mayor. You become friends with the people on the city council or the sheriff, and you do find a lot of stories that you will never find anywhere else. Some example, I had a story that went national news last year. It was just about a dog who ran away from his owner, went to the
Oh, yeah, yeah,
police
yeah. I remember
went
that,
to the
yeah.
police department just to run back to his home. It's like, okay, I'm reporting on a dog. That's
Yeah,
weird.
yeah.
But now I made a new friend. I made a new friend with this guy who has this little dog that loves me very much. I also made a friend with this girl who she was left in the back seat, or she was left in when she was born. The mom gave birth to her in like a bathtub, and
Yeah.
left her in a pickup truck, and told the store clerk, "Can you go check the baby that's back there? I can't take care of it." So
What?
she spent her whole life looking for her biological mom, and at the end told her she didn't want anything to do with her. But then I developed a friendship with this
Yeah,
girl, and we're really close friends now. And I think being able to make these connections with people and learn about people in the community, I think that's what I love so much. And being
wow,
able to share some of these stories with people, because sometimes you don't know, sometimes there are these stories that can move you, that can change your life, you can learn
yeah,
something from it, you know. So I think that's the thing, is like being able to spread a message. Sometimes these stories don't have, like, there's no moral to the story, but it's just something that people can get a chuckle out of, like the dog story.
yeah.
And I think that's what I like the most about it. But
So
as
so
far
the
as
opposite.
like as far as the news anchoring part, it is a little different because um now it's kind of like this tier, right? You're a reporter, now you kind of become this news anchor, but there's still more stuff that comes with it. You have to be able to MC.
Yeah,
Public speaking is not my thing, believe it or not. So yeah, doing that. And there's still this sense of community that I still have to, you know have. So that's also nice too.
yeah. Do, so the opposite question would be, what do you like least about your work?
The thing that I like least is the negative stories. So I'm going to be completely open about this because this was something that I was bundling up, probably, I think I would say the beginning of last year, because I didn't want to talk about it, but like I
Mm,
think people need to know. So
okay.
like any other person, I deal with anxiety like a lot. So when you're working in an environment, when you have to report on a mass shooting, and it takes a lot in your with your deal, it messes with your mental health. You don't want to report on it. You don't want to report on the gunman's name because you're scared it's going to create copycats, which it does. And when you're surrounded by negative news, sometimes it really takes a toll on you. And I think being able to talk about it had really helped me, because for a long time when I was isolated, it was just like making it worse. And then it
Yeah,
sucks because when you have to get in front of the camera, it's like all eyes on you. And then you have to keep this face on, and like you have to like kind of fake it. there were times when the viewers, they can tell that something was bothering me. When I had to report on we had a mass shooting last year, and when I had to report on that, I couldn't help it. I just started crying for the whole, oh my gosh, the whole 2 hours I started crying because I can't help it. I'm a human. Like, if I have to report on this, I'm hurting because it's affecting my community, and this is something that like happened. So that's probably the hardest thing, is like staying on top of your mental health. A lot of journalists, they also don't tell you this in journalism school. A lot of journalists kill themselves because it's a lot of pressure, because it's it's a lot to, you know, a lot of them, we have to get in front of a camera and act like we love our lives, but sometimes you don't know if they're dealing with, you know, something. We had a meteorologist who killed herself about a month ago, not in my station, but like another station that was kind of local. So yeah, mental health is something that I am very strongly and passionate about. And I think for anyone out there who's like, who deals with it, you don't have to be in journalism. Life is already crazy. 2020 is insane, and people need to get that help. So yeah, that's probably the one thing that I would say that is the tough thing about my job.
Oh man, I mean, there was one of those insights that we forget, that newscasters obviously are human, and they feel, and they have anxiety just as like anybody else. And your job is to report news, whether it be good or bad. And how dumb of us to not think that you won't be affected like we are. And if you're telling, like you said, if you're telling a sad story or a negative story, or a story that really touches you because of your past, military, Japan, you know, Texas, and it's hard for you to report on something. And if you're one of those person that can only bottle it up for so long, and you can and your job is to not show that emotion, I can only imagine, you know, there's a lot of, you know, newscasters and reporters who are in that mental state where it can happen. Like you said, that the meteorologist who killed himself or killed herself, and because they couldn't take it, and it affects you. And then that's something I just realized now. You're making a lot of insights and being a reporter, especially now. You know what's happening in the past 3 or 4 years, even during COVID, how emotional it'd be for you guys. And who do you go to? And because we see you as, hey, how are you? Everything's fine, everything's good. And you're trying to report on something that's very devastating or very touches you, and you have to be stoic, or, you know what I'm saying? And that's
for sure.
That's crazy. I could never imagine that.
Yeah, and I think the thing too is like nowadays, I am hoping that people are very open about talking about mental health. Like, I think that we should eliminate the stigma, because I feel like, you know, bottling things up and keeping those feelings just makes it worse. And it's not just the journalists who deal with it too. So, I mean, that's the one thing I had to learn the hard way. But they, you know, my job, the company that I work for, they do take that kind of stuff very seriously. They have, you know, free counseling for a lot of us. They have, you know, people that we can talk to. So yeah, I would say that's definitely helps. So
do you think it's kind of crazy, and, you know, that it may be a trait, because, you know, we come from Japan, and what's the number one death in Japan? Suicides, right?
Suicides,
because
unfortunately.
I think in general Asians are meant, or they don't meant, they're kind of taught to like bottle up their feelings and not show emotion as much. I know we're our Filipino side is we're very emotional kind of people. We cry about everything, or, you know what I'm saying, but not to make light of it, but, you know, oh my God, oh! You know how it is, the Filipino TVs and movies.
Someone ate my lumpia.
You cheated on me. But in Japan, obviously, your other side of yourself, like, you know, Japan is very, they keep it up, they keep it in, like it's my pain, my pain burden, or my, and, you know, we have suicide forest, we have you know, when the train is delayed, we know what happened, you know, especially during the Christmas time or tax season. Do you think that that's part of your trait?
Yes, I know.
That you hold? Yeah, that you don't, oh, I forgot, you know, part of me is Japanese, and maybe it's ingrained in my DNA to bottle stuff
my
up.
DNA.
Right, yeah.
That's an interesting question too. I don't know. I've never thought of it that way. I don't I wouldn't think so. I think like no, I never really dealt with mental health issues until I actually started getting into the news business. So
Yeah, yeah.
I think it was that and a lot of the storytelling. So I don't really think it had anything to do with like my DNA or anything like that. Yeah, I've also I don't think anyone in my family really deals with you know, of course like everyone has their on and off days, but like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's never been I don't think it's ever run in the family. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Well, crazy. Yeah, it's man, I forgot about not that I forgot. I just you never put that in your mind that newscasters
Hmm.
could have those kind of feelings when they were reporting the news. Um, so when you went to
Right.
college, going back a little bit, when you went to college, you had your first job was at Best Buy?
Yeah, I can't believe you remember that too. Sometimes I
What
forget about that part.
Yeah, no, I'm telling you, like, social networking, yes, it can be good and bad, but sometimes you see spurts in your timelines like, "Oh, she worked at Best Buy." The only reason why I
Hmm.
remember that is because I liked going to Best Buy all the time, and,
Hmm.
maybe years ago, I saw you in Best Buy. Matter of fact, I went back and looked at your Facebook, just trying to research, but I did remember that you
Yeah.
worked at Best Buy. Did
Hmm.
that you think Best Buy and think the job that you did, helped you to be who you are right now as a and
Oh
help you to be
yeah, for
yeah.
sure. Yeah. And I think Best Buy itself was like the reason why I did get into journalism because I was
Ah.
working I was working at we sell electronics. I was working in a department where I was selling cameras all the time and I was
Uh,
doing photography on the side, but then I was like, do I want to get in photography? I'm like,
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know. I'm like, well, I wanted to do something with cameras because like not only it wasn't because I was selling them like, oh, I'm selling cameras. I want to get into cameras.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it's just I've always been interested in the idea of like film and like photography, and so I
Oh,
wanted to
yeah.
do something with that. So at some point, I wanted to get into film, but then I actually did meet a friend who just happened to be a customer. He was just like, "Hey, I'm looking to buy this camera." And I was like, "Oh," and then we just started talking. Where do you go to school? Oh, I go to school at Texas State. Oh, well, I'm thinking about going there. What's your major? Electronic media. And that was
Yeah.
right when he said that, I'm like, let me look into this. And
Okay.
so had I not met that person, I probably wouldn't have gotten into electronic media. So again, the people you meet can definitely make an impact on what you do for a living. So yeah, the one customer at Best Buy became the reason why I am here today.
Wow. So thank you, Best Buy.
Yeah, thanks Best Buy.
When you get your Emmys, remember to, look for them as a sponsor.
Oh my gosh, can you
I know, right?
imagine? Yeah, that's actually my goal is to get an Emmy. The only thing I have right now is a Texas Intercollegiate Press Association, an award from
Ah.
college. It's not even that great, but I'm still proud of it. So I put it
No.
on my fireplace.
Well,
So,
I'm telling you, I mean, I'm gonna say this over and over again. I'm pretty sure you hear it from a lot of our families and Finland families out there. We're very proud of you, what you
oh, thank you.
accomplish, 'cause we see you every day, and we see you on Facebook, and so you're one of our highlights every time that, you're the one who made it. You're the one kid or the one teenager or one friend, like, "Oh, man, she's up there. Oh my gosh." So it's a delight to see, your feeds and your what you do and all the time. So, and you can see it in your face and the way you talk, how passionate you are, and we only wish you more success. But, we do have a
That's
question. I
awesome.
do have a question.
Yeah.
So newscasters, reporters, why is it that we see more, not just females, but
Uh-huh.
Asian American females as newscasters? I don't see a lot of Asian guys. Maybe there's a few here and there, but for the most part, they're very popular newscasters from, oh my God, I forget her name. There's 2 or 3 of them. They're very popular, newscast
Mhm.
anchors. But why is it seems like a lot of Asian females fall into, being an anchor, a newscaster, a reporter more
Hmm.
than males? Because I don't see a lot of not a lot of males or Asian males. There's a
Yeah.
few, but
That's another interesting question too because I'm only one out of two Asians that works in this market.
right?
So I don't really see a lot of Asian reporters in general in this neck of the woods.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, I don't know. I don't know why there's more You know why? Because all the Asian men are getting into engineering. Like the Filipino mama told them, like, son, you
Exactly.
have to go to engineering school.
Or you're doctors.
Yeah, you have to be the doctor, the lawyer. Uh, yeah, I don't know. I really don't know. Now that I think about it, I don't think I've met an Asian reporter. Yeah, I've never met an Asian male reporter
Like
or
the Asian.
Asian male
I mean,
news anchor.
I see there's like maybe Indian, because they're so
Okay.
they're called Asians. There's a few out there that I know that I remember seeing, but not straight Asian, like Japanese or Korean or Filipino. Not that many, not that I
Hmm.
know of. So it's just
Yeah.
interesting. It's kind of an interesting fact. I just see. I don't know if you feel that pressure, like I'm the only Asian lady here, the Asian person here.
Yeah. Well, you know what? And like moving to West Texas, this is a predominantly white area. And that was actually one of the things that I was a little nervous about. I'm like, I'm not saying that just because it's a white area, people are going to be racist, but you just never know if you're going to be accepted. But I think that's where the Air Force brat thing comes into play. I'm like, well, you have been around a lot
Yeah.
of mixed cultures. This is also a Hispanic community as well. And the interesting thing is I actually face a lot of racism in San Antonio than I
Oh,
do in Midland, Texas.
wow,
I'm
really?
very, yeah, and I'm not trying to be on my high horse when I say this, but like there's a lot of people in this community who actually appreciate like having
Diversity.
yeah, and like I even have people that say, "Oh, you work at Channel 9. I love how your station has so many, you have a black reporter, you have an Asian person, and then you have like there's just this nice mix, and that's really cool." So,
Wait, wait, wait.
um
Have you ever had an old person come to you and say, "I used to have an Oriental friend"?
no.
No, never. That too, dude. I've had like 3 or 4, and at first I was kind of offended, but
Yeah, yeah.
actually I was offended during the whole time I was, talking to these people. But
Uh-huh.
I kind of researched it a little bit. That's how they called us that time. That's how they referred to us. Not called us, but they referred us to us that time.
Oriental.
She's like, "Oh, this one lady who's like, oh, she's from San Francisco. Oh, I had a good friend. She was Oriental. You're a very good Oriental guy, something like that. It's that effect. But at that time, like, I'm hurting deep down, like this
Like,
motherfucker
yes.
calling me a furniture. Like the hell is going on?
I know, like, yes, I am a rug.
Yeah,
Oh
but
gosh.
researching the actual usage of the word made me feel better. Like, okay, she didn't mean anything. That's just how they called us. So I
Hmm.
was asking because remember I was living in San Angelo and you live just down the road from me. So I thought maybe
Yeah, yeah.
never had anybody say, "Hey, you're a good Oriental," or "Oh, you're Asian. You like orange. I like orange chicken."
The funny thing is that I've met some men who let's just say they were alive during World War II.
Yeah,
But they have called the station just to tell me that they really appreciate what I do, that I remind them of someone from the war, which was actually very interesting. But they know I'm Japanese. It's because I never changed my name to a TV name. Like I kept my
yeah, yeah,
real name.
yeah, yeah.
And so they do have this kind of appreciation, which I think is nice. A lot of people don't know that I'm Filipino. They actually know
Mhm.
the Japanese part, but I think
Most
again, it's
likely, yeah,
because of the name that
yeah, yeah, yeah.
comes with it. So yeah, that's interesting. No, I've never gotten the
No,
Oriental thing. That's
now you're gonna be
hilarious.
kind of aware now, and someone's gonna call you. Oh, you're a very nice Oriental girl. Like,
Yeah, that's very strange. I
yeah.
hope people don't use that word again.
No, but
Just like,
during their time, during a certain age, that's what they use, and so like, oh, okay, I understand. But if you're a new person, if you're like, 30 and above, hey man, don't use that word to me. No,
yeah,
I'm
yeah, yeah.
I'm not easily offended by that word anywhere because I know where that came from. So,
Hmm.
but I do get offended if
That's
they refer if they like I said, if someone say, hey, or so you Asian goes, yeah, oh, I love orange chicken. Okay, well,
oh gosh, yeah,
I'm
that stereotype that
yeah, I'm Filipino. Oh, okay. I love dim sum. Like, hey man, look, different kinds of food, man. Yeah, that's what that's Chinese. I'm Filipino. Oh, okay. No,
oh
I know
my
they don't mean
gosh.
it, but yeah,
Yeah,
it's
they don't mean any harm by it, but it's just that like that education
mhm,
part they kind of need. Do you ever get people who say they ask you what kind of Asian you are? You say, "Oh, I'm
yeah,
Filipino," and they say, "Oh, cool! I have a Filipino friend. You should meet them."
exactly. Hey, do you know Junjun from down the? this is a big city, man. Like we not all Filipinos know each other, man. But
Yeah.
actually, I do know him. No, but yeah, we get that all the time. You know, in the Air Force too is like, oh, I mean, I'll be just like joke like we have a lot of Asian females who are married to American men. I mean, it's just the way it is, you know. So
Hmm.
there's a
Hmm.
connection. Oh, my wife is Filipino. Oh, cool. You should meet her.
Cool story, bro.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, like I don't think I should meet every Filipino.
Yeah.
Oh wow. So moving on.
Hmm.
Um, what do you think is the best resource that have helped you along the way to becoming who you are today?
A
So,
resource as
a
far
re-
as,
so we talked about Best Buy and meeting that
uh-huh.
person, right? So
Yeah.
was there any um, other resources, people, mentors, mom, dad,
Okay.
family?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I know how to answer that. So, another thing in journalism is I think the best way to prepare for it is to meet people who've done this, who've played the game for a really long time. I'm talking like people who've been in the business for like 15, 20 years.
Yeah, yeah.
And because it's the saying, it's not what you know, it's who you know.
Wow.
And when you intern, and this applies to anything too. When you intern somewhere, you're not just getting into it just to like, okay, I'm going to put these credits down. Like, no, that's the whole point. You have to network and build a relationship with people. When I
Yeah.
was interning in San Antonio, I became friends with the investigative team. These are people who are, they've done this for like 20 years and that's all they know. And so they haven't only been in San Antonio, they've been in other markets too. So they have connections. And also they've seen the worst days too. And I think being able to have that as a resource and my mentors and being able to go back and say, hey, this happened, or hey, I'm in this situation, or hey, I'm in the middle of this story and I'm not really, my boss is telling me I need to go in, but the police are investigating. It's an Asian spa. What should I do? And then it's stuff like that where I'm able to call them and like, have that kind of advice
Okay.
handy. So
Is there any
yeah.
any big names that we know that you have access to that helps you out every so often?
If you're in the San Antonio area, anyone who's part of the troubleshooter team, they are
There you
my
go.
mentors. And
Ah, that's awesome.
yeah.
Is there like an association of newscasters and reporters from all over
There's
Texas?
actually an Asian association of
What?
Asian journalists.
So you're like 5 of them?
I'm not part of it.
Okay.
Just the only reason why I'm not part of it is because I noticed that I mean, I don't really see anything that's really helpful as far as like, yes, I am an Asian reporter, but like I'm not really subscribed to like a list.
Gotcha.
I think as long as you have some kind of passion, doesn't matter what race you are, I think that's also a good thing. But I do think that there should be a lot of diversity as well, because then it's as an audience you can relate to that person.
Yeah.
And I think before I got into journalism, I was always scared that, I'm probably not going to get into this market because their viewers are mostly white. How am I going to, as an Asian woman, how am I going to relate to these people? But then at the end of the day, it doesn't even matter about that. It's how you're delivering the information that's out there. So I don't really see it as like, race being a thing. Although it is nice to be able to have those kind of connections and see and network with other Asians as well. So, but there's a lot of groups that are out there.
Yeah.
I think
All
I
5
only
of you,
joined
right? All
one
5 of
that,
you in Texas?
yeah, all five of the Asian reporters. But I'm sure in California there's like a bunch
There probably is.
of Asians.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Ah,
yeah.
well, that's interesting. So I think
Mhm.
you already had this answer this question, but what is the one common myth about your profession or field that you would love to debunk right now?
Huh. Okay, I feel like I talked about the
Yeah, you
the
did.
reading thing.
Reading,
Um,
doing your own work.
Another thing, I've had at least 2 to 3 people ask me what political side does your station lean towards, and I think a
Ah,
lot of people think that because I'm an NBC affiliate,
Yeah.
But if I was a Fox affiliate, they would automatically assume that we're just a conservative news station. And just because there are local news stations that are like a Fox affiliate or,
Mhm.
an NBC affiliate doesn't mean we're actually like literally affiliated with the network. We just have the content that's shared. The content, I mean stories. So as a local news station, you're not supposed to lean in any direction. Hell, even if you are in the news business, you're not supposed to lean in any direction.
Be
Just
fair and
if you
balanced.
do, if you have a personal life, then yeah, you are free to lean one way or the other, but you can't show that. You can't. I think that's the one thing too, is that I think that's the biggest mistake that CNN and Fox News has, is that they lean towards one side, but they're still delivering the news. Don't get me wrong, I still watch them,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
as a local news station, you deliver the news, don't have any kind of bias towards it, and then you let the audience decide.
Exactly.
And there are times the content that I get from CNN, they are clearly pushing an agenda.
Yeah.
So that's not happening in Jolina's house. So
Oh, gotcha, gotcha.
I do change the script because I'm not trying to push an agenda. I think that's the one thing that should not be done at all. Like, it's just don't push an agenda. Just deliver the news. If there's a protest happening, you report on the protest. If President Trump is visiting, you report on President Trump visiting, and that's it. Like, you don't like lean towards one side. And I think a lot of people think that local news stations were supposed to lean to one side or the other, but that's not the point of news. So
Is it that's actually a good point you make, is that NBC, CNN, how they lean. But when you come to a smaller station, is it maybe, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's easier for you to report the news the way you see it, with the known facts that you have. And maybe when you get up to a certain level, CNN, BBC, and you're at a bigger station or a headquarters, they kind of sway into the narrative of whatever your boss, or what I'm saying. They have writers now. At that time, they have writers, and they have supervisors and managers. Hey, read this. Hey, read this. Read this. Read this. Read this. Whereas you guys are a local station, you have that leeway of saying, I'm not writing that way.
yeah.
Oh, I'm not staying that way.
Yeah. And I don't know how they actually do it at bigger markets and big networks, but I that's definitely a goal, is I don't ever want to work for CNN or Fox News, because I would rather keep things, in the middle.
Yeah.
And ABC, NBC, they do a pretty good job at kind of just delivering the news as it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's like, even if Fox News called me and said, hey, we want to give you a $12 million salary, I'd be like, I don't know. I just don't feel like it's me. Like, I don't want my opinions to, have people sway a certain way.
Yeah.
I'd rather just have news. So,
well,
yeah.
maybe that's yeah, exactly. We're trying to be PC right now because we can't get in trouble with our political, affiliations and opinions, especially in the news.
Yeah.
With you, are very, very testy. Well, that's interesting. That is a good thing to debunk, is that at least for the smaller stations or local stations, or small markets, they're not swayed as much with whatever agenda they have at the big markets or with political. And that's cool. And I think that's why people love you guys more, the local stations, is that our smaller markets, because you tell us the facts, you tell us the information. And now we know that Jolina at least tells you the real deal. That here's information. Here's this, it may have been written this way, but I wrote it differently.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, man.
That. I mean, that's the thing. I think that's the one thing I like about working in a smaller market too. And also I kind of do have the final say whether certain stories come in. So
Good.
yeah, I don't know.
Wow, that's interesting. There's a lot of information I wouldn't even know. I mean, the things that make people think about, I think we're going to look at newscasting a lot different now. So as a news reporter, as a news anchor, do you critique other newscasters? Come on.
Oh, hell yeah.
I'm a DJ.
Yes.
I'm like, ooh, he messed up. Ooh, he messed up.
Yes.
Oh, that's not go together.
Yeah, you do. I don't know if you like watching them, but it's one of my favorite things to do, is watching news anchor fails. And watching news reporter fails. Sometimes news reporters, when they work, 12-hour, 16-hour shifts, and they're like, hey, we want you to go live in the 6. And then sometimes they say the wrong thing. I don't know if you saw one video. A woman was like, we contacted the man who died, but they had no comment. I knew, like, when I saw that, I was like, she's tired. I know what she meant to say. She meant to say, we contacted the family of the man who passed. They had no comment. So
yeah.
So like for me, like I understand, but it also kind of boosts my ego a little bit because I know that when I mess up on air, I'm not the only one.
Oh man.
So yeah, so I just, and sometimes like I do watch other newscasts just so I can, see and learn as well. Cause I'm still in a small market. So it's all a learning experience.
Wow.
So yeah.
That's interesting. Like I said, as DJs, we do the same thing. We go in the club or we go to a party and like, that song don't go together.
It's like, what kind of transition was that? He just went from dubstep to top 40. What's going on?
Oh, that's cheesy. I find.
Do you still DJ, by the way?
I don't now. I stopped. It's 2015 because I don't even remember, but I went to Chili's as a manager, and so look, I'm retired now. I'm done. I'm not affiliated with anybody. So this is what happened. I used to DJ a lot downtown. I was known for that. I did a lot of parties, like I did your Sweet 16 and homecoming weddings, and I DJed downtown. I became a manager at a point where, if, for example, they held that against me, like, oh, well, he's DJing in a club, and Americans are now supposed to be DJing in a bar selling alcohol. I had to talk, and so I had to stop DJing.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
Really? Yeah.
Wow. But do you miss it sometimes? Do you miss DJing?
I do because when you're DJing, it's not easy. People think, oh, just press play and there's certain times you do that, but when people are dancing, you have to kind of know what songs go together and how to mix it and unmix it. Back in the day, even when I was doing it, songs were at least longer than a minute or two, right? And then you bring out. Now it's like it's TikTok era, so it's like 10 seconds, 30 seconds, and they're not mixing. I don't know if you notice they cut it. It's like the beat don't match. I don't know if you do DJ. So the older DJs, we beat match, so the song blends. So it sounds like oh, that was a good mix. Each beat matches. But now it's TikTok era where it's they call it smashing. I don't know the last time we've been in a club. It's been like history now that we've been to a club. But basically they smash the songs together. The beats don't match. So for example, one song would be like, for example, 80 beats per minute, and the other song would be 100 beats per minute.
Right.
Those songs don't naturally mix well. But nowadays with TikTok and how people mix, you can smash it. It doesn't matter.
But then like you lose that flow. It just,
well, I mean, at least you're old enough to know that mixing is great and that's supposed to be done that way. But our new kids now, like 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 19, 20, they don't want that. They want just enough of the song. It's TikTok. It's whatever it is, 10 seconds, 30 seconds of it. And it just got worse.
Gosh.
It got worse from Vine. From Vine to Instagram, now to TikTok. And that's the attention span. I'm telling you, my kids all day, not every day, all day, they watch TikTok. And
I hate TikTok. Oh,
like,
oh my gosh,
is something wrong with you? No, that's the movements. And I know you're a dancer, so you might be like crazy. Like their movement is like here. There's no moving. And every so often they do that, but I'm telling you, it's taking over the world. TikTok. I know. I'm sure.
And it didn't help during. Yeah, it didn't help during quarantine. While everyone was being quarantined, what else can we do to pass the time? Download TikTok. There was a time here. Speaking of news anchor fails, there was a time when our newscast, we needed to fill 1 minute. So we had to find a story that was a minute long. What was the only story available? A stupid story on TikTok. And I told my producer, I was like, I swear to God, I was like, I will ad lib for a minute. I don't even care. But please do not put that TikTok story in. I'm sorry. We need to fill more time. So they play the TikTok story. It's like TikTok is taking over the world. You can see a lot of the dances, and the one that I hate, it's like
Exactly.
and so what they didn't know, what I didn't know either, my microphone was on the whole time while the
Oh
story
man.
was playing, and you could just hear me saying, oh, I hate this crap. Look at this crap. This is garbage, stupid dancing. They're like, your microphone is on. I'm like,
Oh my
that's
goodness.
okay. I want the viewers to know I hate this app.
Oh
But
man.
I can see the appeal. I know why like
Yeah.
a lot of the Gen Z's, is it Gen Z's, Gen X or whatever you call them, they're like they're into that. It's like their thing. But
It's a
ruin the club game. Just
I
ruin the
know.
club game for all of us. You can't,
Oh, yeah.
be like the real OGs.
I don't know if I can DJ like that anymore. It's crazy. Because, if you listen to the radio station, I don't know, they do it here in California. They have a TikTok mix session. That's what they call it. Yes. I'm telling whatever they're watching on YouTube with the mix match of TikTok, they do it the same thing on the radio station.
Oh, no.
So,
okay, so don't move to California. Okay, got it.
I guess. I'm pretty sure they're doing it in San Antonio and Dallas and Austin, the big cities.
Wow.
It's
Yeah.
TikTok. They call it like for example, TikTok mix hour, something like that.
Oh my gosh, I didn't
But,
know it was to that extent.
It's a love and hate. I mean, I can see we hate it, we love it because people are making money off of it. Songs that we've never thought about even hearing are big now. If you listen to the music, think about it. Doja Cat, Weekend, that music is what we grew up in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s. That kind of like da na 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 na. It's very 80ish, 90ish. So
Yeah.
and TikTok has made that artist or that song very, very wealthy and popular. So with that said, yes, it's annoying in a way because it's funny because you see kids doing this in the aisles and all that, but people are making a living off it. Number one is the artists, businesses, people. Kevin Hart and everybody's doing it, and I'm pretty sure if you haven't done it yet, you might end up doing a TikTok. I don't know.
Oh gosh, they could up my salary and I would not. It's a disease. Stop it. Put an end to it now.
Do you know who Gary Vee is? Gary Vaynerchuk?
No.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a big motivational marketing guru, whatever. He's been touting TikTok for years now, saying that's the way to make money and make big business. I mean, it's a 12-year-old market, 12 to older market, but you're talking about these 20-year-olds or 18-year-olds who were 12 only a few years ago, that's a big market. So I don't know. And of course, TikTok is being banned or whatever it is in the United States now. That's like, really?
Yeah, I'm curious to see how. Yeah, I don't know how that's gonna turn out, but right when I heard about that, I was like, okay, we're seeing like the OGs here are kind of waiting for this to happen, but I don't know. I doubt anything's gonna come from it.
You were reporting that one?
How
could you report that and not giggle a little bit inside?
I think I kind of snickered a little bit. Like, yeah, I put that in I have like a consumer segment. I'm like, well, if you use TikTok, you probably won't be using it for a while now because President Trump is trying to ban the social media app. But my audience, I feel like they understand too because they're like a little older. I don't really have a millennial audience, so
okay.
So they're in it. They get it.
Well, I can say so much about that whole scenario. I want to be PC, a little bit PC. I'll save that for another podcast.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. So we have a lightning round called the Poddex. It's a Poddex questions, and it's one of my sponsors. And before I let you go, so Poddex are the hottest new tool for podcasters looking to have more meaningful conversations or gamify their podcast. Simply shuffle up, ask a question, and let the content roll. Get yours today at poddex.com and use code Highway54. That's capital H, capital W, capital Y, 54 for 10% off your order. So before we go into that round of questions, which should be really fun, we got a lot of questions here. How can listeners get kind of follow you, get in contact with you, or just ask you questions? Say they want to get into journalism, they have a random question, or they just want to follow you in your station.
Yeah, I'm pretty active as far as my news accounts go on Facebook. So it's my full real name. It's Jolina, Jolina, and then Okazaki. That's Okazaki. And yeah, let's put that down below so people can see it. And then so I'm active on there, and then on Instagram I'm also active on there as well. That's JOLEE. And UHHH, I think. we'll have to double check that.
Okay.
The only reason why that's kind of like hidden was because I just was trying to like keep a little on the down low, but all the journalism people come into my circle. And then also on Twitter too. It's
on Twitter. Oh yeah, Twitter too.
Okazaki TV, and that's it. That's it. Yeah. So that's all. Those three I'm the most active on.
Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.
Twitter, yeah.
Oh, I gotta follow you on Twitter. I don't really use Twitter a lot, but I do look at some people just to see how crazy they are or what they're saying. So, wow. So, answer: Best by artist, still an artist, drawing painter to newscaster. Wow, that's an interesting ride, and you're still getting started. All right.
Yeah, only getting started.
Just getting started. Once you get that Emmy, all right.
Yes.
All right. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Yeah, so these are pod decks and these are questions. I'm not going to read all of them, but I'll see which one to use.
Okay.
Worst job you've ever had?
I've never had a worse job.
Oh, me neither.
Yeah, it's only Best Buy and this.
Okay, great. We never a bagger.
Yeah, and no, I worked for a school district as well. Yeah, so they were all really great experiences. Never had a bad job.
Okay.
Probably only the worst experiences really just came from dealing with parents when I worked at the school district, but they weren't like awful experiences. But yeah, I wouldn't say I ever had a bad job. Never worked in the restaurant industry. Never worked in never was a bagger at the commissary. So,
never. Not even a temptation to work as a bagger.
No.
Nah. Okay.
Yeah.
Which words or phrases do you most overuse?
Oh. Which words or phrases?
I say word a lot.
Word. Yeah, you do. You did say that a lot during our messages. Word. Gosh, what do I say? Well, in the newscast, I say, "Take a look at this," and I say, "Take a look at this. Check this out." But the one thing I will never ever say on air is "Get this," or "This just in." But as far as like my personal life, I don't know. Yeah. I say "like" a lot. Like.
Very,
especially when I'm nervous. Yeah,
very military, Pacific, Cali, Texas kind of thing. Like.
I guess so.
Okay, let's go way back here. What was your first screen name?
Jazzy USA.
Why
a chat room. I don't know, because it was like a little chat room in 6th grade, and all the girls were like, "We're gonna have USA as the last part, so pick something." I'm like, I want something with a J, and they gave me Jazzy, and that kind of stuck. Jazzy USA was my first.
You didn't have like spirit hands like Jazzy.
No, Jazzy USA.
Okay. What's left on your bucket list?
Skydiving, shark cage diving.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought maybe it wasn't you. I thought I saw you do that one time.
Skydiving?
Yeah.
Oh, I wish.
No, somebody else.
I would like to do that one day.
They have that in Texas, skydiving?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of places to go skydiving, yeah.
What do you consider your greatest achievement?
I think getting into the news business, just because I was always very shy, very introverted, and I've always wanted to be one of those people who was like kind of out of their shell. And so it did help a lot as far as my nervousness going on live television and being able to communicate with people. So just getting into the business, I would say.
What is your most treasured possession?
Are we talking about like an actual object?
Sure. Could be a person.
Or a person as well?
Yeah.
Probably my family. Like
Yeah.
I would do anything for my family. If they were like, can you get out of the news business and just like take care of us and feed us rice for the rest of your life, I'd be like, okay. No, I'm just kidding. I wouldn't do that. But like, but I would do anything for my family. So they're always my number one. I think that's why I always want to stay in Texas too, because I want to be close to them. So
your mom's still in Texas too, right? San Antonio?
Yeah, they're all in San Antonio. So just living it up. Military city.
Mom. I miss you guys out there.
I miss you too.
What book belongs on everyone's shelf?
The Alchemist. Have you read that one?
I heard about that. No.
It's a very good book.
What's it about?
It does kind of teach you a lesson. It's about this guy who starts off with a tree. I remember that. And then he goes on this venture. Come to find out, not going to spoil it, but you'd have to read it.
Is that an anime? Is that an anime?
No, it's not an anime. Oh. That would be cool if it was an anime, but yeah, it's not an anime.
If there was a sandwich named after you, what would be on it?
The Oriental. I'm just kidding. I would say the jalapeno, because I'm like Japanese and Filipino, so it would be the jalapeno. The jalapeno grilled cheese. That's actually my favorite grilled cheese is grilled cheese with jalapeno.
Okay. Yeah.
Absolutely no Filipino or like Japanese touches to it, but that's the only thing I could think about.
Okay. Have you ever worn clothing with labels or tags still attached? I do it with a hat.
Yeah. I think I've done it, but it was on accident, or I didn't realize the tag or the sticker was still on there. So yeah.
Oh my goodness. What's the funniest, most disappointing, or weirdest text you've ever received? I'm sure you get a lot.
It was probably like it wasn't directed towards me. It was one of those wrong number things. And it said, "Hey, Amy, so Kathy's getting a divorce. Is it okay if I drop my luggage off at your house? It would have to be between the hours of 2 and 5 p.m. And I responded with this chihuahua with a face like this.
Oh.
And I was like, hey, I would love to help you, but that's not me. But I hope that your friend goes through her divorce quite swimmingly."
Oh man, that is so like heartbreaking at the same time, but funny at the same time. Hey, dude. Wow, interesting. Okay, serious question. Okay. So,
okay.
Get ready. Serious mode and scene. Is a hot dog a sandwich?
Oh my gosh, I'm leaving. Goodbye. This podcast is over. Seriously, this was an argument that I got into with my last ex-boyfriend.
Oh.
This was just a debate. A hot dog is not a sandwich. The reason why I say this is because the bread. I'm just looking at your reaction just to make sure I'm. The bread is still attached, so it's like the sandwich is a sandwich if there's like two pieces of bread.
Okay.
One on top, but because the hot dog is literally one piece of bread and it's just folded in half, then I would say it's not a sandwich. Unless the buns were separated. At that point, maybe you could call it a sandwich, because a sandwich, if you Google it, by definition, it consists of 2 slices of bread with like meat or whatever inside. So.
Well, yeah, you had no research and information about that, huh?
Wait, what is your opinion on it? I actually want to know now.
I don't really think about it. If it's a sandwich, it is. I agree. You're the second person that said that. If the bread is separated, sandwich. If it's together like that, where it's supposed to be, it's not a sandwich.
Mm-hmm.
The hot dog.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I agree. I totally agree.
All right. Okay.
If you were a ghost, who would you hunt?
Probably my ex-boyfriends. I just feel like that would be fun.
Would you move things around?
Be like, you're always gonna. Yeah, wouldn't that be great? I would.
Guys,
Just kind of traumatize them for a little bit.
yeah. Forewarn, future
Yeah.
telling any guys, future guys. What would be the worst ingredient to fill a burrito? Oh, that's kind of touching. That's a personal question.
The worst ingredient to fill a burrito.
Yeah, I can eat just about everything. Here in
Yeah.
California, we put French fries. We have lumpia, everything in there. Have we tried that? Lumpia and
Yeah.
burrito?
No, that sounds amazing though. I would try that. I think anything sweet. Like don't mix like anything sweet in a
Exactly.
burrito.
Like
So
Oreos.
yeah.
Kittens, yeah.
Although there are people who like both the salt and sweet mix, but I don't. Sometimes it's acceptable, sometimes it's not.
I might know this because I know you're a fan of Star Wars, right?
Uh-huh.
If you had
If you're gonna say gosh,
if
okay,
you had
go
a
on.
personal mascot, what would it be?
So actually I'm gonna show you a little bit.
I have my notes here. I'm hopefully
Wait.
Hopefully you say it exactly. Right here.
Okay,
Look
so
at
I have BB-8, but I would probably say
I had
R2D2.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have R2D2. Well, I didn't write it down, but I did say I was asking Star Wars.
Yeah,
fan.
R2D2 is probably my favorite. Actually, he's kind of off. Like you can see it right here.
But BB-8.
R2D2.
Yeah, I see him.
But yeah, but I do like BB-8 as well. But R2D2 is like my go-to. So yeah.
Would you rather be the most popular kid in school or the smartest?
The smartest. Ugh, who cares about being with the popular kids? Yeah. I want to be the smartest. I want to be the kid who's like Mike Estacion, who applied to all these top schools,
Exactly.
but then he was like so proud to talk about like which schools he didn't get into. Like, hey guys, didn't get into Harvard, but just wanted to let you know I applied.
So another kid, and we're super proud of him. Him and his whole family. Oh my gosh.
I know. I'm so proud of him.
both.
He's
His
doing very
younger
well.
brother is also in West Point, also. So he should be graduating soon.
I can't believe he got married too. Francis got married.
Oh. They're both pokey anyway, so it was.
I know.
All right.
Dude, even Freddie looks the same.
Yeah. Would you rather have unlimited sushi for life or unlimited tacos for life?
No, you're asking me this, and I live in Texas, and I was living in Japan.
Don't hurt us.
Oh God.
I wouldn't fault you for any because you live in Texas.
Okay, I'm gonna have to say sushi, and the reason why is because it takes a certain ingredient to make them right, and I don't think I'd be able to make them at home. At least at home, I could be like, all right, give me some tortillas, give me some beans and cheese, and we'll be good to go. But yeah, sushi is like it's like a skill. So I would say unlimited sushi for sure.
I get cravings for sushi all the time. Tacos, I have to be in the mood, so I would say unlimited sushi.
Yeah, for sure.
What's the favorite thing you bought this year?
Favorite thing I bought this year. She said as she looked around her apartment. My favorite thing that I bought this year. I don't really shop a lot, so I don't really know.
Wait, an Asian woman who doesn't shop? Come on.
No. Like what do they call those things? Those ABGs? I'm like, yeah, I don't know about that. I honestly don't know. I feel like this pandemic has made things like kind of unusual, so I haven't really bought a lot of things. I guess the one thing I have been buying a lot recently are frames, like picture frames.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to make this West Texas wall in my apartment. That's the only thing I don't really buy a lot of things, so I don't know.
Oh man, you're one of those savers. You have a lot of money.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, it is true. I do save a lot. So,
wow, interesting. Okay, so last question.
Okay.
And very meaningful because of what's happening now in 2020, and we talked about this before the podcast. Very challenging. If you could send a message to the entire world, what would you say?
I would say take things a day at a time. There are some days when, you know, or a lot of us can feel like we're so overwhelmed with certain things. And the one thing that I kind of learned to do within like a year or so is like learn how to meditate. The point of meditating is if you're someone who deals with anxiety, you're scared of the future. If you're someone who deals with depression, you're scared of your past. And the point of meditating is to focus on the right now. And so, although that can be overwhelming, we're in the middle of a global pandemic, I think being able to just kind of take in, you know, I have my health, I have people who support me, people who love me, I have a roof over my head, and just being able to take things at a time. Because yeah, 2020 is a lot to handle. We've gone through so much, and as long as you can take things a day at a time, I would say that's the one thing that's the one message I would spread to everyone.
Love. Amen.
Amen.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, this was fun.
It was really fun, interesting. We've learned a lot about you. You know, it seemed like, you know, with military brats and families, friends, you know, once we could be away from each other for years. But the one thing we connect to each other is that we remember, like, it was like yesterday, like we were never apart for so many years. And that's the good thing about being in the military or being a military brat, that time is not lost when we're in front of people. You and a lot of families are one of my favorite memories of Japan, even though I was there for a very, very long time. And I want to say, Jolina, you are an inspiration to a lot of people, and I'm sure people watching this who are young Asian females or just wants to be a journalist will see that like, wow, that's super interesting, and we would love to see your growth. And we only wish you more blessings and hopefully an Emmy, maybe soon. No?
Oh, sorry, say the last part, you were cutting out.
Oh, I said maybe
Say
an
the last
Emmy
part
soon.
again.
So we wish you more blessings,
Yes,
and
no,
we
I hope so. Yeah,
hopefully
yeah,
you have an Emmy coming soon.
I know, yeah, I hope so too. And it's nice to see that you're still doing this. And I know you've kind of been like the jack of all trades, doing so many things. But I think that's another thing that like a lot of people can look up to is, you know, life is too short. You should try fitting as many things as possible and experience. You know, that's the one thing I'm trying to channel this year is like try new experiences and try something that you've never done before. And I hope people can learn something from this chat, because this was very informative and very fun. And I hope that they can take something from this.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. Tell Mom I said hi. I'm pretty sure we'll contact you. And you can see the video on our webpage, Highway 54. Ladies and gentlemen, Jolina Oguzaki.
All right. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
We hope you enjoyed the show today. Do us a favor and click on the like button or share our podcast. Thanks for listening. Till next time, we are Highway 54.